The laptop screen glowed in the darkness of my home office, casting shadows across the walls at 3 in the morning. I couldn't sleep again. Insomnia had become my unwelcome companion since the startup began consuming my life, but tonight felt different. Tonight, something gnawed at me that had nothing to do with quarterly projections or investor meetings. Elara's backup drive sat connected to my computer, its contents spread across my screen like digital breadcrumbs. She'd asked me to organize her files while she traveled for work, a simple favor that should have taken 20 minutes. Instead, I found myself staring at a folder labeled Memories that I'd never seen before. My finger hovered over the trackpad. Privacy meant something in our marriage, but curiosity won. The folder contained dozens of videos from her bachelorette party 2 years ago. I remembered that weekend. She'd gone to Vegas with her college friends while I stayed home, working on the prototype that would eventually become my company. The first few videos showed typical party footage: champagne toasts, casino games, laughter echoing through hotel suites. Then, I found the one that made my stomach drop. The timestamp showed 2:47 a.m. on Saturday night. Elara sat on a hotel bed, her wedding dress from the fitting earlier that week, draped across a chair in the background. But she wasn't alone. Rhett Vossin, her college boyfriend and current real estate mogul, sat beside her, his hand resting on her thigh. "This is crazy," Elara whispered, but she didn't move away from him. "We both know you're settling," Rhett replied, his voice carrying that entitled confidence I'd always despised. "Rowan's a nice guy, but he's not me." "Don't say that." "Then why are you here? Why didn't you push me away when I showed up?" The camera, held by someone whose giggling suggested too much alcohol, captured Elara leaning into Rhett. Their lips met, and the kiss lasted far too long for any reasonable explanation. "Don't tell Rowan," Elara said when they finally separated. "Promise me you won't tell him." Rhett grinned. "Our little secret." I watched the video 3 more times, each viewing adding another layer of betrayal to the foundation of my marriage. The woman I'd promised to love and cherish had made her own promises that night, promises that had nothing to do with me. My phone buzzed with a text from Elara. "Landing in 2 hours. Can't wait to see you." I stared at those words, remembering how I'd felt reading them just minutes ago. Now they seemed like another lie in what was apparently a collection spanning our entire marriage. But instead of rage, I felt something colder, something calculating. Elara and Rhett thought they were clever, keeping their secret for 2 years. They thought I was the naive husband, too trusting and too busy with work to notice what was happening under my nose. They were about to how wrong they were. I opened my contacts and scrolled to Beck Darren, my lawyer, and one of the few people I trusted completely. Beck had handled the startup's legal formation and, more importantly, had insisted on the prenuptial agreement that Elara had reluctantly signed. "Beck, it's Rowan. I need you to review my prenup, specifically the clause about premarital deception. Call me when you get this." Next, I found Rhett Vossin's number. Rhett's wife was brilliant, ruthless, and had never liked me much, but she despised being made a fool of even more. I attached the video to a message. "Seren, I thought you should see this. We should talk." The messages sent with soft whooshes that seemed too quiet for the magnitude of what I'd just set in motion. I copied the video to 3 separate drives, uploaded it to a secure cloud account, and printed several screenshots for good measure. Then I walked to our bedroom and opened Elara's jewelry box. Her engagement ring sat in its velvet slot, the ring I'd saved for months to buy, the ring she'd worn while kissing another man. I carried it downstairs and placed it on the kitchen table next to a manila envelope containing divorce papers I'd prepared months ago but never thought I'd use. The prenup had been Beck's idea, not mine, but now I silently thanked him for his paranoia. The clause was simple. Any evidence of premarital deception that materially affected the marriage contract would void Elara's claim to marital assets. At the time, I'd thought it was overkill. Now, it looked like salvation. I positioned my laptop so the video would be the first thing Elara saw when she walked in. Then I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. My phone buzzed again. "Just landed. Home in 30 minutes." I typed back, "Welcome home. We need to talk." The garage door closed behind me as I backed out into the pre-dawn darkness. I'd drive around for an hour, maybe grab coffee, and return to watch Elara's world collapse with the same methodical precision I used to debug code. This was just the beginning. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I parked 3 blocks away and walked back, approaching the house from the side yard where I could see through the kitchen window. The laptop screen illuminated Elara's face as she stared at the frozen video frame. Her purse had dropped to the floor, its contents scattered across the hardwood. Her phone buzzed constantly. My messages to Seren had clearly reached their target. I waited another 5 minutes, watching my wife of 2 years discover that her carefully constructed lies had finally caught up with her. Then I walked through the front door like I'd simply been checking the mail. "Rowan." Her voice cracked. "I can explain." "Can you?" I kept my tone conversational, almost friendly. "Because I've been trying to figure out how to explain this video for the last hour, and I'm coming up empty." Elara's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and declined the call, but not before I saw Rhett's name. "That's the 4th time he's called," I observed. "Maybe you should answer. He might have some ideas about how to explain this." "It was a mistake. I was intoxicated, and he surprised me by showing up and you told him not to tell me." I sat across from her at the table, the engagement ring between us like a small, glittering accusation. "Which suggests you knew exactly what you were doing." Her phone buzzed with a text. Then another. I could see her hands shaking as more messages poured in. "Who else did you send this to?" she whispered. "Well, Seren deserved to know what her husband was up to, and Beck needed to see it for legal reasons. Oh, and I may have accidentally included your sister Jennifer in the group message. You know how technology can be tricky." The color drained from Elara's face. Jennifer worked in marketing at the same company as Elara. Jennifer, who had never approved of Elara's relationship with me. Jennifer, who had a mouth bigger than the Grand Canyon. "You had no right." "I had no right?" I leaned forward. "I'm your husband. I had the right to know about this 2 years ago. I had the right to make an informed decision about whether I wanted to marry someone who was still involved with her ex-boyfriend. I wasn't involved with him. It was one moment of weakness." "One moment." I nodded thoughtfully. "Okay, let's assume that's true. When exactly were you planning to mention this moment of weakness? On our 5th anniversary? 10th? Or were you hoping I'd never find out?" Elara's phone rang again. This time, the caller ID showed Serene's name. "Answer it," I said. "Rowan, please, answer the phone, Elara." She swiped to accept the call, her hand trembling. "Hello?" Even from across the table, I could hear Serene's voice, sharp and furious. "You manipulative little witch. Do you have any idea what you've done to my marriage?" "Serene, I can explain." "Explain? You were supposed to be my friend. I introduced you to Rowan because I thought you were better than the usual trash Rhett dated. Turns out you're exactly the same." I watched Elara's face crumple as Serene continued her verbal assault. Part of me almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "I'm filing for divorce," Serene continued. "And I'm taking everything. The house, the business, the cars, all of it. Rhett will be lucky if I leave him with bus fare." The line went quiet. Elara stared at the phone for a moment before looking up at me. "Satisfied?" she asked. "Not even close." I stood and walked to the kitchen counter where I'd left a stack of papers. "These are divorce papers. I'm citing irreconcilable differences and invoking the premarital deception clause in our prenup. What does that mean? It means you get nothing. The house, the cars, the savings accounts, the stock options from my company, all of it stays with me. You'll leave with whatever you brought into the marriage, minus anything purchased with marital funds. I watched her process this information. Elara had been working in marketing for 3 years, making decent money, but nothing compared to what my startup had generated. She'd grown accustomed to our lifestyle, the house in the hills, the luxury cars, the expensive vacations. You can't do this. Actually, I can. Beck confirmed it an hour ago. The prenup you signed is ironclad, and the video constitutes clear evidence of premarital deception. You lied to me about your relationship with Rhett, and you've been lying for 2 years. Her phone buzzed with another text. This time she looked at it, and her face went even paler. What now? I asked. Jennifer wants to meet for lunch tomorrow. She says she has questions about the video. I smiled for the first time since finding the video. I'd cancel those plans if I were you. You're going to be busy apartment hunting. Elara stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I need some air. Take your time, but when you come back, I want your keys to the house and the car. You can stay in the guest room tonight, but tomorrow you need to find somewhere else to live. She walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. I loved you, Rowan. I still love you. No, you don't. You love what I provide. You love the lifestyle, the security, the status. But you don't love me. If you did, you wouldn't have been kissing Rhett 2 nights before our wedding. The door slammed behind her, rattling the windows. I sat in the sudden silence, staring at the engagement ring on the table. 2 years of marriage, reduced to a small circle of metal and a video file. My phone rang. Beck's name appeared on the screen. Rowan, I got your message. Are you sure about this? Completely sure. The video is pretty damning, but divorce is expensive and messy. Maybe you two can work through this. Beck, she's been lying to me for 2 years. She kissed her ex-boyfriend 2 nights before our wedding and never said a word. What exactly are we supposed to work through? I understand you're angry. I'm not angry. I'm done. How quickly can we move on this? Beck sighed. If she doesn't contest it, we could have everything finalized in 60 days. But Rowan, think carefully about the deception clause. It's nuclear. She'll walk away with almost nothing. Good. Are you sure that's what you want? I looked around the kitchen that Elara had decorated, at the photos on the refrigerator from our honeymoon, at the coffee maker she'd bought because she didn't like the one I had. Beck, she made her choice 2 years ago. I'm just making mine now. All right, I'll file the papers first thing Monday morning. After he hung up, I walked through the house, seeing it differently now. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, every shared memory felt tainted by the knowledge that our entire marriage had been built on a lie. But instead of sadness, I felt something else: anticipation. Elara and Rhett thought they were clever. They thought they'd gotten away with their secret. They had no idea what was coming next. This was just the beginning of their education. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that made everything seem possible. I'd spent the weekend moving Elara's belongings to the guest room and changing the locks on the house. She'd returned Sunday night to find her key no longer worked, a small satisfaction that felt larger than it should have. Beck had filed the divorce papers at 9 a.m. sharp. By 9:30, Elara's phone was buzzing with calls from her lawyer, her sister, and half a dozen friends who'd apparently heard about the video through Jennifer's efficient gossip network. But I had bigger plans than simple divorce proceedings. My first stop was Coastal Trust Bank, where we maintained our joint accounts. The prenup gave me authority to freeze marital assets pending the divorce settlement, and I exercised that authority with surgical precision. I need to suspend access to these accounts, I told the branch manager, sliding the legal documents across her desk. My wife will no longer have authorization to withdraw funds or make charges on the credit cards. The manager, A middle-aged woman named Patricia, who'd handled our banking for 2 years, looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Carrick, are you sure about this? Mrs. Carrick was just here Friday to deposit her paycheck." "I'm sure. And Patricia, when she comes in asking about the accounts, please direct her to speak with my attorney." From the bank, I drove to my startup's office in the converted warehouse district downtown. My company, Cloud Vault Solutions, had grown from a 2-person operation to a team of 12 in just 18 months. We specialized in secure data management for small businesses. Ironic, considering I'd just used those same skills to secure evidence of my wife's betrayal. "Morning, boss," called Jake Martinez, my lead developer, as I walked through the open workspace. "How was the weekend?" "Educational," I replied. "Jake, I need you to do me a favor. Remember that home security system we installed at my house for beta testing?" "Sure. The one with the smart locks and camera integration. I need you to help me update the access codes. Elara's moving out, and I want to make sure the system is secure." Jake raised an eyebrow, but didn't ask questions. That was one of the things I appreciated about him. He understood that sometimes people needed technical solutions to personal problems. Within an hour, every smart device in my house had been reconfigured. Elara's phone no longer controlled the thermostat, the security system, or even the garage door opener. Her laptop had been removed from the home network, and her access to our shared cloud storage had been revoked. It was petty, perhaps, but effective. My phone rang as Jake finished the final configurations. Gabe Morrison's name appeared on the screen, my best friend since college and currently the security chief at the downtown marina where I kept my sailboat. "Rowan, you've got to see this," Gabe said without preamble. "See what?" "Rhett Vossin just tried to rent a slip here. When I told him we were full, he started throwing around money and making threats. Said he needed to get his boat away from his usual marina because his wife was causing problems." I felt a smile spread across my face. "Did you rent him the slip?" "Hell no, but I thought you should know he's scrambling. Word is, Seren cleaned out their joint accounts and had him served with divorce papers this morning." "Interesting timing. There's more. He asked specifically about your boat, wanted to know which slip it was in when you usually came down here. I told him to mind his own business, but he seemed pretty interested in your schedule." That was concerning. Rhett had always been the type to blame others for his problems, and I suspected he held me responsible for his current situation. Never mind that he'd created this mess by cheating on his wife. In Rhett's world, I was the villain for exposing his behavior. "Gabe, can you do me a favor? Keep an eye on my boat for the next few days. If Rhett shows up again, call me immediately." "You got it. But Rowan, be careful. Rhett's desperate, and desperate people do stupid things." After hanging up, I leaned back in my office chair and considered my next move. Elara and Rhett were both scrambling, both facing the consequences of their actions. But I wasn't finished with them yet. I opened my laptop and navigated to LinkedIn, where both Elara and Rhett maintained professional profiles. Elara worked for Morrison & Associates, a mid-sized marketing firm downtown. Rhett ran his own real estate development company, specializing in luxury condominiums. Both of their careers depended heavily on reputation and networking. Both were about to discover how quickly those things could disappear. I started with a simple Google search: Rhett Vossin, Morrison & Associates. The search returned several results, including a press release from 6 months ago announcing a partnership between Rhett's development company and Elara's marketing firm. They were working together professionally, which meant their personal relationship had continued long after our wedding. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd expected, but it also provided ammunition. I downloaded the press release and cross-referenced it with our credit card statements from the past 6 months. Sure enough, there were charges for restaurants, hotels, and even a weekend trip to San Francisco that Elara had claimed was for a client conference. My phone buzzed with a text from Beck. "Elara's lawyer wants to meet, says she's willing to negotiate." I typed back, "No negotiations? The prenup is clear." She's claiming the video was taken out of context. Says Rhett forced himself on her. I stared at the message, feeling my carefully controlled anger begin to heat up. Even now, facing the consequences of her actions, Elara was trying to lie her way out of responsibility. Tell her lawyer to watch the video again. She leaned into the kiss. She told him not to tell me. She knew exactly what she was doing. Understood. But Rowan, she's going to fight this. Her lawyer thinks they can challenge the deception clause. Let them try. I have more evidence than just the video. And I did. The credit card statements, the professional partnership, the pattern of lies that stretched back months. Elara had underestimated me for the last time. I spent the rest of the morning documenting everything I could find. By lunch, I had a comprehensive timeline of Elara and Rhett's relationship, complete with financial records and photographic evidence from social media posts. But documentation wasn't enough. I wanted them to understand the full scope of what they'd lost and what they were about to lose. I picked up my phone and dialed the main number for Morrison and Associates. Good afternoon, Morrison and Associates. This is Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. This is Rowan Carrick. I'm Elara Carrick's husband. I need to speak with someone in human resources about a sensitive matter involving employee conduct. There was a pause. One moment, please. As I waited on hold, I watched through my office window as the city went about its normal Monday routine. People walking to lunch meetings, construction crews working on the building across the street, delivery trucks navigating the narrow downtown streets. None of them knew that their ordinary Monday was about to become the day Elara Carrick's professional reputation began to crumble. This is Margaret Chen in Human Resources. How can I help you, Mr. Carrick? Margaret, I'm calling about my wife, Elara. We're currently going through a divorce, and some information has come to light that I believe your company should be aware of. What kind of information? Evidence that Elara has been conducting a personal relationship with a client, Rhett Vossin of Vossin Development, and using company resources to facilitate that relationship. Another pause. Mr. Carrick, that's a serious allegation. I have documentation. Credit card records, emails, photographs. I'd be happy to provide them to your legal department. I think that would be appropriate. Can you come in this afternoon? I'll be there at 2. I hung up and leaned back in my chair, feeling the satisfaction of a plan coming together. Elara had spent 2 years thinking she was smarter than me, more sophisticated, better at playing the game of relationships and social dynamics. She was about to learn that I'd been playing a different game entirely. My phone rang again. This time it was Elara. Rowan, we need to talk. No, we don't. Talk to your lawyer. Please, 5 minutes. There are things you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You've been lying to me for 2 years. You've been seeing Rhett behind my back, probably since before our wedding. You used marital funds to pay for your affair, and you used your company's resources to facilitate it. Silence on the other end of the line. How did you? Figure it out. Elara, I build security systems for a living. I analyze data and identify patterns. Did you really think you could hide this from me forever? It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. And in about 2 hours, it's going to be what your HR department thinks too. Rowan, please don't do this. Your job is the least of your concerns. By the time I'm finished, you and Rhett are going to wish you'd never met each other. I ended the call and turned back to my computer. There was still work to do. The game was just getting started. The Morrison and Associates building occupied 12 floors of glass and steel in the heart of downtown, its lobby decorated with awards for marketing excellence and community service. I'd been here before for company parties and client events, always as Elara's supportive husband, always smiling and making small talk about quarterly projections and campaign strategies. Today felt different. Margaret Chen met me in the lobby at exactly 2 o'clock, her expression professionally neutral but her eyes curious. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with the kind of sharp intelligence that made her perfect for handling sensitive employee issues. Mr. Carrick, thank you for coming in. Would you like to go somewhere private to discuss this matter? That would be best. She led me to a conference room on the 8th floor, its windows overlooking the city center. Through the glass, I could see people going about their normal Tuesday afternoon routines, unaware that someone's career was about to implode just a few floors above them. Before we begin, Margaret said, settling into a chair across from me, I should mention that Mrs. Carrick called in this morning. She said she's dealing with a family emergency and won't be in for the rest of the week. I smiled. How convenient. Mr. Carrick, I need to be clear about something. Whatever personal issues you and your wife are experiencing, this company cannot be involved in marital disputes. I understand completely, but this isn't about our marriage. This is about employee conduct and potential misuse of company resources. I opened my laptop and turned the screen toward her. 6 months ago, your company announced a partnership with Vossin Development. The press release lists Elara as the primary account manager. Margaret nodded. That's correct. Here are credit card statements from our joint account, showing charges for restaurants, hotels, and travel that Elara claimed were business expenses. I slid printed copies across the table. Notice the dates and locations. Margaret examined the documents, her expression growing more serious. These charges were reimbursed by the company. Exactly. But they weren't business expenses. They were personal meetings between Elara and Rhett Vossin. I opened another file on my laptop. This video was taken at Elara's Bachelorette party 2 years ago. I played the video, watching Margaret's face as she absorbed what she was seeing. When it finished, she sat back in her chair. Mr. Carrick, this is concerning. There's more. I showed her screenshots from social media posts, emails that I'd legally obtained through our shared cloud account, and a timeline that clearly demonstrated the ongoing nature of Elara's relationship with Rhett. Your company has been unknowingly funding an extramarital affair, I concluded. Elara has been submitting fraudulent expense reports for 2 years, using Morrison and Associates as cover for her personal relationship. Margaret was quiet for several minutes, reviewing the evidence. Finally, she looked up. Mr. Carrick, I need to ask you directly. What outcome are you seeking here? I want justice. Elara committed fraud against your company and betrayed my trust. I want her held accountable for both. I see. Margaret gathered the documents. I'll need to discuss this with our legal department and senior management. In the meantime, I think it's best if Mrs. Carrick remains on administrative leave. That seems reasonable. As I left the Morrison and Associates building, my phone buzzed with a text from Gabe. Rhett's at the marina. Looks like he's trying to get onto your boat. I checked my watch. 3:15 on a Tuesday afternoon, and Rhett was apparently desperate enough to attempt breaking and entering in broad daylight. This was either stupidity or desperation, possibly both. The marina was a 15-minute drive from downtown, its parking lot filled with the expensive cars of people wealthy enough to own boats they used maybe 6 times a year. I spotted Rhett's silver BMW immediately, parked crookedly across 2 spaces near the main dock. Gabe met me at the security gate, his expression grim. He's been here for 20 minutes, trying to convince the dock workers to let him onto your boat. Says he left something important on board. Did anyone buy that story? Hell no. But he's getting aggressive about it. Threatened to have me fired, said he knows the marina owner personally. We walked down the main dock toward my slip, our footsteps echoing off the water. The afternoon sun reflected off the harbor, creating a peaceful scene that contrasted sharply with the confrontation I was about to have. My boat, a 36-foot sailboat named Logical Conclusion, sat in its slip like a floating sanctuary, and standing on the dock beside it, trying to peer through the cabin windows, was Rhett Vossin. He looked terrible. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled, and his face showed the strain of someone who'd spent the last 2 days watching his life fall apart. Rhett, I called out as we approached. Looking for something? He spun around, his face flushing red when he saw me. Rowan, I need to talk to you. Really? Because it looks like you need to break into my boat. I wasn't breaking in, I was just trespassing. The word you're looking for is trespassing. I stepped onto my boat, putting the safety rail between us. What do you want, Rhett? You've ruined everything, my marriage, my business, my reputation, all because of one stupid mistake. One mistake? I laughed. Rhett, you've been having an affair with my wife for 2 years. You used her company's resources to fund your relationship. You convinced her to lie to me about business trips that were actually romantic getaways. That's not one mistake. That's a pattern of deliberate deception. Elara came to me. She said she was unhappy, that you were always working, that you didn't pay attention to her. So you decided to help her work through her marital problems by sleeping with her? Rhett's face grew redder. You don't understand what it's like to be married to someone like Seren. Cold, controlling, always criticizing. Elara was warm, fun, spontaneous. Elara was married. To me. She never should have married you. She told me so herself. That stung more than I wanted to admit, but I kept my expression neutral. If that's true, why didn't she divorce me? Why the elaborate deception? Because you provided security, stability, all the things she needed while she figured out what she really wanted. And what she really wanted was you. Rhett hesitated, and in that moment of silence, I saw the truth. Elara hadn't chosen him over me. She'd chosen to have both of us, taking what she wanted from each relationship without committing fully to either. It doesn't matter now, Rhett said finally. Seren's taking everything, my house, my business, my cars. She's claiming I used marital assets to fund the affair. Sounds familiar. I need money, Rowan. A loan, just enough to get back on my feet. I stared at him, wondering if he was serious. You want me to loan you money? After you've been sleeping with my wife for 2 years? It's not about us. It's about being decent human beings. Decent human beings don't have affairs with married women. Everyone makes mistakes. No, Rhett. Everyone makes choices. You chose to pursue a married woman. Elara chose to betray her marriage vows. I'm choosing to make sure you both face the consequences. Rhett's expression shifted from pleading to angry. You think you're so much better than us, don't you? So moral, so righteous. But you're just a bitter little man who couldn't keep his wife satisfied. Gabe stepped forward, but I waved him back. You're right about one thing, Rhett. I couldn't keep Elara satisfied, because what she wanted wasn't a husband. It was a provider and a lover, and she expected me to be okay with only filling one of those roles. She deserved better than you. Maybe. But she didn't deserve better than honesty, and neither did I. The difference between us is that I'm dealing with this situation legally and openly. You're standing on a dock, trying to break into someone else's boat because your life is falling apart. Rhett looked around the marina, as if suddenly realizing how pathetic his situation appeared. Other boat owners were watching from their decks, curious about the confrontation. This isn't over, he said quietly. Yes, it is. Your marriage is over. Your business relationship with Elara's company is over. Your affair is over. The only question now is how much dignity you want to preserve while you deal with the consequences. Rhett turned and walked away, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I watched him go, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and something that might have been pity. Think he'll cause more trouble? Gabe asked. Probably, but he's running out of options. My phone buzzed with a text from Beck. Elara's lawyer called. She wants to settle out of court, says she'll accept the prenup terms if you agree not to pursue the fraud charges. I typed back, no deal. She made her choices. Rowan, think about this carefully. A settlement would be faster and less expensive. Some things are more important than time and money. As I drove home from the marina, I thought about Rhett's words. Maybe Elara had deserved better than me. Maybe I had been too focused on work, too trusting, too naive about the complexities of marriage. But she'd had choices. She could have talked to me about her unhappiness. She could have suggested counseling. She could have asked for a divorce. Instead, she'd chosen deception, and now she was facing the consequences of that choice. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. Jennifer's name appeared on the screen, Elara's sister, who I hadn't spoken to since sending her the video. "Rowan, we need to talk." "About what, Jennifer?" "About what you're doing to my sister. She's staying with me and she's a mess. She hasn't eaten in 2 days, she's barely sleeping, and she's talking about leaving town." "That's her choice. You're destroying her life." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm simply refusing to continue living a lie." "She made one mistake." "Jennifer, stop. You've seen the video. You know this wasn't one mistake. And if you're honest with yourself, you know Elara's been lying about a lot more than just Rhett." Silence on the other end of the line. "She's my sister, Rowan. And she was my wife. But that doesn't mean I have to pretend this didn't happen. What do you want from her? What would it take for you to stop this?" I considered the question as I sat in my car, looking at the house that Elara and I had shared for 2 years. What did I want? "I want her to tell the truth," I said finally. "To everyone, to her friends, her family, her co-workers. I want her to admit what she did and take responsibility for it." "And then what?" "And then we can both move on with our lives." Jennifer was quiet for a moment. "She'll never do that." "Then I guess we have nothing to talk about." I hung up and walked into my house, which felt larger and quieter than it had before Elara left. But it also felt cleaner somehow, as if her absence had removed more than just her physical presence. My laptop chimed with an email notification. The sender was Margaret Chen from Morrison & Associates. "Mr. Carrick, after reviewing the evidence you provided, we've decided to terminate Mrs. Carrick's employment, effective immediately. We're also pursuing legal action to recover the fraudulent expense reimbursements. Thank you for bringing this matter to our attention." I leaned back in my chair, feeling a sense of completion. Elara's professional life was now as ruined as her marriage, and it was entirely due to her own choices. But I wasn't finished yet. There was still Rhett to deal with, and I had a feeling he wasn't going to go quietly. My phone buzzed with another text, this one from an unknown number. "You think you've won, but this isn't over. People like you always get what's coming to them." I screenshot the message and forwarded it to Gabe with a note. "Looks like Rhett's getting desperate. Keep an eye out." Then I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my back deck, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and red. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new confrontations, new opportunities to ensure that justice was served. But tonight, I was content to sit in the quiet satisfaction of a plan well executed. The game was far from over. The Harvest Festival had been a city tradition for 15 years, transforming downtown into a maze of food trucks, craft booths, and live music stages. Normally, I avoided these events. Too crowded, too loud, too much forced community spirit for my taste. But this year was different. This year, I had a purpose. Elara loved the Harvest Festival. She dragged me to it every year since we'd been together, insisting we needed to support local businesses and be part of the community. What she really loved was being seen, walking through the crowds in her designer clothes, stopping to chat with acquaintances, playing the role of the successful young professional. Today, she was going to get all the attention she could handle. I spotted her near the artisan jewelry booth, examining a pair of earrings while Jennifer stood beside her, looking uncomfortable. Elara had lost weight since our confrontation a week ago, her face thinner and more angular, but she'd still dressed carefully for the festival, a flowing autumn dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, paired with boots that clicked authoritatively on the pavement. She was putting on a show, trying to project normalcy and confidence. I was about to ruin that projection. "Elara!" I approached from behind, my voice carrying just enough to be heard by the people around us. She turned, her face going pale when she saw me. "Rowan, I didn't expect to see you here." "Really? You've dragged me to this thing every year for the past 5 years. Where else would I be?" Jennifer stepped protectively closer to her sister. "Rowan, maybe this isn't the place." "Actually, Jennifer, this is exactly the place. Public venues are perfect for public conversations." A small crowd was beginning to gather, drawn by the tension in our voices. I recognized several faces. Neighbors, local business owners, people from Elara's social circle who knew us as the successful young couple with the big house and the bright future. "Elara," I continued, my voice loud enough to carry, "I wanted to thank you publicly for making our divorce so straightforward." "Rowan, please." "No, really. When someone provides video evidence of their own adultery, it makes the legal proceedings much simpler." The crowd grew larger. Someone pulled out a phone and started recording. "Perfect." "That's not fair," Elara said, her voice cracking slightly. "You're taking everything out of context." "Context?" I laughed, the sound carrying across the festival noise. "Okay, let's provide some context. Ladies and gentlemen, my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, was caught on video kissing her ex-boyfriend 2 nights before our wedding, but that's not the best part." Elara's face was now completely white. "Stop. The best part is that she's been conducting an affair with this same man for the past 2 years, using her company's expense account to fund romantic getaways. Morrison and Associates fired her last week when they found out about the fraud." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I saw people whispering, pointing, pulling out phones to record the scene. This was exactly what I'd hoped for. "You're a monster," Jennifer hissed. "I'm a man who refuses to be lied to. There's a difference." Elara suddenly stepped forward, her composure cracking completely. "You want to do this here? Fine. Yes, I made mistakes. Yes, I handled things poorly. But you're not innocent in this, Rowan." "Really? Please, enlighten everyone about my crimes." "You were never present, never emotionally available. You cared more about your precious startup than you did about our marriage. I felt like a roommate, not a wife." The crowd was fully engaged now, watching our marriage disintegrate in real time. I could see the fascination in their faces, the guilty pleasure of witnessing someone else's personal disaster. "So you decided to solve our marital problems by sleeping with someone else?" "I decided to find someone who actually wanted to spend time with me." "And you found that someone in Rhett Vossin, who happened to be married to someone else." "Rhett understood me in ways you never did." I pulled out my phone and opened the video file. "Should we let everyone see how well Rhett understood you?" "Don't you dare." "Why not? You said I'm taking things out of context. Let's give people the full context." Elara lunged for my phone, but I stepped back, holding it out of reach. The crowd pressed closer, sensing that the confrontation was reaching its climax. "Rowan, I'm begging you, don't do this." "You should have thought about that before you made the video." I pressed play, holding the phone high enough for the people around us to see the screen. The audio was clear enough to carry over the festival noise. Elara's voice saying, "Don't tell Rowan." Rhett's response about her settling, the sound of their kiss. The crowd's reaction was immediate and brutal. Gasps, shocked laughter, whispered comments that I could hear clearly. "Oh my God, what a witch. Poor guy. I can't believe she did that." Elara stood frozen, watching her reputation crumble in real time. When the video ended, the silence stretched for several seconds before the crowd erupted in conversations. "There's your context," I said quietly, putting my phone away. "Everyone can decide for themselves whether I'm the monster in this situation." Elara turned and ran, pushing through the crowd toward the parking area. Jennifer followed, but not before shooting me a look of pure hatred. "That was harsh, man," said a voice behind me. I turned to see Tom Bradley, a neighbor from 2 streets over. "But I guess she had it coming." Everyone has choices, Tom. She made hers. Still, publicly humiliating her like that. She humiliated herself. I just provided the evidence. As the crowd dispersed, I walked through the festival, hearing fragments of conversations about what they'd just witnessed. By tomorrow, the story would be all over social media. By next week, everyone in our social circle would know exactly what had happened. My phone buzzed with a text from Gabe. Saw the video online already? Someone posted it to Facebook. You okay? I typed back, perfect. Phase 2 complete. But as I drove home from the festival, I felt something unexpected. Emptiness. The satisfaction I'd anticipated was there, but it was accompanied by a hollow feeling that I hadn't expected. For 2 years, Elara and I had attended the Harvest Festival together. We'd walked through the same booths, eaten the same overpriced food, listened to the same local bands. Those memories felt tainted now, but they were still there. I pushed the feeling aside. Nostalgia was a luxury I couldn't afford. Elara had made her choices, and now she was living with the consequences. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. Beck's name appeared on the screen. Rowan, what the hell were you thinking? I was thinking that Elara needed to face some public accountability for her actions. There are videos of your confrontation all over social media. Her lawyer is going to use this against you, claim you're harassing her. Let them try. Everything I said was true, and I have evidence to back it up. Truth isn't the issue here. Perception is. You're going to look like a vindictive ex-husband who can't let go. I don't care how I look. You should care. This could affect the divorce settlement, your business reputation, everything. I considered this as I sat in my car, looking at the house that would soon be entirely mine. Beck was probably right about the potential consequences, but I was past caring about public perception. Beck, she lied to me for 2 years. She committed fraud against her employer. She destroyed our marriage and showed no remorse until she got caught. If standing up for myself makes me look vindictive, so be it. Beck sighed. All right, but from now on, all contact with Elara goes through lawyers. No more public confrontations, no more social media posts, no more festival dramatics. Agreed? Agreed. After hanging up, I walked into my house and poured myself a drink. The silence felt different now. Not peaceful, but stark. For the first time since finding the video, I wondered if I was handling this the right way. Then my phone chimed with a notification. Someone had tagged me in a Facebook post about the festival confrontation. The video had been viewed over 1,000 times in just 2 hours, with comments ranging from supportive, good for him for standing up for himself, to critical, this is so inappropriate and cruel. But one comment caught my attention. I worked with Elara at Morrison & Associates. Everyone knew something was going on with that Vossin guy. She wasn't as sneaky as she thought. I scrolled through the other comments, finding similar observations from people who'd apparently suspected the affair long before I'd discovered it. Co-workers who'd noticed inconsistencies in her travel stories. Friends who'd seen her with Rhett at restaurants when she was supposed to be working late. I'd been the last to know about my own wife's betrayal, and that realization stung more than I wanted to admit. My phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. Hello? Mr. Carrick, this is Detective Sarah Walsh with the City Police. I understand you've been having some issues with a Mr. Rhett Vossin? My stomach dropped. What kind of issues? Mr. Vossin filed a complaint this afternoon, claiming you've been harassing him and threatening his safety. He mentioned an incident at the marina and some threatening text messages. Detective, I haven't sent Rhett any threatening messages. In fact, he's the one who's been contacting me. Do you have evidence of that? I pulled up the threatening text I'd received after the marina confrontation. I have a message he sent me yesterday. I can forward it to you. Please do. And Mr. Carrick, I'd advise you to avoid any further contact with Mr. Vossin. Whatever personal issues you're dealing with, they need to be resolved through proper legal channels. Understood. After the detective hung up, I forwarded Rhett's threatening text and added a brief explanation of the marina incident. Then I called Gabe to give him a heads up that the police might be contacting him as a witness. "This is getting out of hand," Gabe said. "Rhett's desperate enough to file false police reports now. Let him. The truth will come out." Will it? Or will this just turn into a he said she said situation that drags on for months? I didn't have a good answer for that question. What had started as a simple matter of exposing the truth was becoming increasingly complicated, with lawyers and police and social media all adding layers of complexity I hadn't anticipated. But I was committed to seeing this through. Elara and Rhett had spent 2 years thinking they were smarter than me, more sophisticated, better at playing the game of deception. They were about to learn that I'd been playing a different game entirely, one where the truth mattered more than perception, and where consequences were real and permanent. The final phase was about to begin. The Riverside Hotel sat on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where traveling salesmen stayed and divorced fathers took their kids for awkward weekend visits. It wasn't the sort of establishment I'd normally frequent, but then again, nothing about the past 2 weeks had been normal. Rhett had texted me that morning with a proposition, one final meeting to settle this like adults before our lawyers made everything unnecessarily complicated and expensive. He'd chosen the hotel's restaurant, claiming neutral ground would keep things civil. I knew it was a trap. The question was, what kind of trap, and whether I was walking into it or setting one of my own. I arrived 15 minutes early and chose a table near the window, where I could see the parking lot and both entrances to the restaurant. Old habits from my security consulting days. Always know your exits, always maintain situational awareness. Rhett arrived exactly on time, but he wasn't alone. Elara followed him into the restaurant, her face carefully composed, but her hands shaking slightly as she sat down across from me. "This is unexpected," I said. "We thought it would be better if we all talked together," Rhett replied. "Clear the air, find some common ground." Common ground. I leaned back in my chair. Interesting concept. What exactly do we have in common, Rhett? We're all adults who made mistakes. We all have something to lose if this situation continues to escalate. The waitress approached our table, but I waved her away. This conversation wouldn't last long enough to require beverages. "What do you want?" I asked. Elara spoke for the first time. "We want to make a deal." "I'm listening." "Drop the fraud charges against me. Stop posting about us on social media and agree to a quiet divorce settlement. In exchange, we'll disappear. Rhett's got a job opportunity in Denver and I can transfer with my new company." "Your new company?" "I got hired by a marketing firm in Colorado. They don't know about recent events." I smiled. "Yet." Elara's composure cracked slightly. "Rowan, please, haven't you done enough? I lost my job, my reputation, my marriage. Rhett lost his wife, his business, his house. We're both starting over with nothing." "You're not starting over with nothing. You're starting over with each other. Isn't that what you wanted all along?" Rhett leaned forward. "Look, we know we screwed up, but continuing this vendetta isn't going to change what happened." "Vendetta?" I laughed. "Rhett, I haven't done anything to you except expose the truth. If that feels like a vendetta, maybe you should examine your own actions. You humiliated us in public. You destroyed our careers. You turned our friends and families against us. I provided evidence of your behavior and let people draw their own conclusions. The fact that those conclusions were unfavorable to you isn't my fault." Elara pulled out her phone and placed it on the table. "We're recording this conversation. If you threaten us or admit to harassing us, we'll take it to the police." I pulled out my own phone and placed it beside hers. "Good idea. I'm recording too. If you threaten me or try to blackmail me, I'll take it to my lawyer." The tension at the table was thick enough to cut. Other diners were beginning to notice our conversation, their voices dropping as they tried to eavesdrop. "What do you really want, Rowan?" Rhett asked. "Money? Revenge? What would it take for you to let this go? I want justice. Justice? Elara's voice rose slightly. You've already gotten your justice. You've destroyed our lives. No, Elara. You destroyed your own lives. I just refused to help you cover it up. We made mistakes. Stop calling them mistakes. Mistakes are accidental. What you did was deliberate, calculated, and sustained over 2 years. You made choices, and now you're facing consequences. Rhett's face was getting red. You self-righteous piece of... Careful, Rhett. Remember, we're both recording. He took a deep breath, visibly controlling himself. Fine. You want consequences? You've got them. But this needs to end somewhere. It ends when you both take full responsibility for what you did. We are taking responsibility. No, you're trying to negotiate your way out of responsibility. There's a difference. I stood up, preparing to leave. This meeting was pointless. They wanted absolution, and I wasn't in the business of granting it. Sit down, Elara said quietly. Please. There's something else. Against my better judgment, I sat back down. I'm pregnant. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at Elara, searching her face for signs that she was lying, but her expression was serious and frightened. Congratulations, I said finally. I assume Rhett's the father? We don't know, Rhett admitted. The timing, it could be yours. I felt the world shift slightly, like standing on a boat in rough water. For 2 weeks, I'd been focused on revenge, on making them pay for their betrayal. The possibility of a child, my child, complicated everything. When did you find out? Yesterday, Elara replied. I wanted to tell you in person. How thoughtful. Rowan, if this baby is yours, if this baby is mine, then we'll deal with that situation when we have more information. But it doesn't change what you did, and it doesn't change the consequences. You can't seriously expect me to raise a child while dealing with fraud charges and public humiliation. I expect you to raise a child the same way millions of other women do, by taking responsibility for your choices and doing your best. Rhett slammed his hand on the table. Damn it, Rowan, show some compassion. She's scared, she's alone, and she's carrying a baby that might be yours. She's not alone. She has you. Isn't that what she wanted? This isn't about us anymore. It's about an innocent child. You're right. And that innocent child deserves parents who tell the truth, who take responsibility for their actions, and who don't try to manipulate their way out of consequences. I stood up again, this time with finality. Get a paternity test. When you have the results, have your lawyer contact mine. Until then, we have nothing to discuss. Rowan, wait. But I was already walking away, my mind reeling from this latest development. A baby, possibly my baby. The one thing I hadn't planned for, the one variable that could change everything. As I drove home, I called Beck. Rowan, please tell me you didn't meet with them without me present. I recorded the whole thing. Beck, there's been a development. I explained about the pregnancy, about the uncertainty of paternity, about the new complexity this added to an already complicated situation. This changes things, Beck said. If the child is yours, you'll have parental rights and responsibilities, regardless of the divorce settlement. And if it's not mine, then it's not your problem. But Rowan, you need to be prepared for either possibility. That night, I sat on my back deck with a glass of wine, staring at the city lights and trying to process everything that had happened. 2 weeks ago, my biggest concern had been a product launch deadline. Now I was dealing with divorce, fraud charges, public humiliation, and the possibility of becoming a father. The irony wasn't lost on me. For 2 years, Elara and I had talked about having children someday, when the business was more stable, when we were more financially secure, when the timing was right. Now she might be pregnant, and the timing couldn't be worse. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw the video from the festival. Good for you for standing up for yourself. Some people need to learn that actions have consequences. Then another. My ex-husband cheated on me too. Watching you handle this gives me hope that justice is possible. And another. You're an inspiration. Too many people let cheaters get away with it. I scrolled through a dozen similar messages from strangers who'd seen the festival video or heard about my situation through social media. Apparently, my personal drama had resonated with people dealing with their own betrayals. But the messages that meant the most came from people I actually knew. Jake from work. Boss, whatever you need, we've got your back. Tom from the neighborhood. Saw what happened. Sorry you're going through this. Even Margaret from Morrison and Associates. Thank you for bringing the fraud to our attention. You did the right thing. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than anger or satisfaction. I felt supported, vindicated, like maybe I hadn't been wrong to demand accountability, to refuse to let Elara and Rhett escape consequences for their choices. My phone rang. Gabe's name appeared on the screen. How'd the meeting go? Complicated. They want to make a deal, disappear to Colorado, start fresh. And Elara might be pregnant. Silence on the other end of the line. Damn, Gabe said finally. That's complicated. Yes. What are you going to do? Wait for a paternity test. See what the lawyers say. Try to figure out how to handle this without compromising my principles. Your principles are admirable, Rowan, but a baby changes everything. Does it? Should I pretend the affair never happened because there might be a child involved? Should I drop the fraud charges because Elara's pregnant? Where does accountability end and compassion begin? I don't know, man. That's way above my pay grade. After hanging up, I walked through my house, seeing it differently than I had before. The spare bedroom that Elara had wanted to convert into a nursery. The backyard where we'd talked about building a playground. The kitchen where we'd imagined teaching a child to cook. All of those dreams felt distant now, tainted by betrayal and deception. But if Elara was carrying my child, those dreams might still be possible, just in a very different context than I'd ever imagined. I poured another glass of wine and returned to the deck. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new decisions, new opportunities to choose between justice and mercy, between accountability and forgiveness. But tonight, I was content to sit in the quiet certainty that I'd done the right thing, regardless of how complicated that choice had become. The next 48 hours moved like a storm front, fast, loud, impossible to ignore. Lawyers called, reporters circled the story after the festival video went viral, and Elara sent 3 separate emails begging for a private meeting before things get worse. But the real explosion arrived on Thursday morning at 9:12 a.m. I was in my office, reviewing a revised draft of the divorce filings, when Beck burst in without knocking. "Rowan," he said, breathless, "you need to see this. Now." He placed a thick envelope on my desk. Inside was a series of documents, financial audits, email chains, screenshots pulled from a corporate server. I scanned the first page. Unauthorized transfer of proprietary marketing data sets. Forgery of internal authorization signatures. Evidence of coordinated cover-up involving Vossin development. My eyebrows lifted. This is bigger than expense report fraud. Much bigger, Beck replied. Your wife and Rhett didn't just misuse company funds. They stole intellectual property from Morrison and Associates and funneled it into Rhett's real estate firm to inflate investor projections. I sat back. So that's why Rhett was desperate. So that's why Elara suddenly wanted to disappear to Colorado. So that's why the pregnancy card came out now. Anything to derail the investigation. They thought you destroyed their reputations, Beck said. But this sinks them legally. And the audit department just sent a request for your cooperation. You hold key timelines and digital access logs. Without you, they can't finish the case. I exhaled slowly. So the game really is over. Beck hesitated. Not exactly, because they're coming here. As if on cue, the receptionist called my office line. Mr. Carrick, your wife and Mr. Vossin are in the lobby. Security asked if they should remove them. I stood. Send them in. Beck's eyes widened. Rowan! It's fine. Let them finish what they started. The door opened 3 minutes later. Elara walked in first, pale, trembling, eyes rimmed red. Rhett followed her, jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle twitching. You set us up, Rhett said without preamble. You think you're clever? You think you can ruin us and walk away untouched? I didn't ruin you, I replied calmly. Your actions did. Elara stepped forward. Rowan, please. We know about the audit. We know what they found. But you can stop this. You can tell them we didn't involve you, that you didn't suspect anything. You want me to commit perjury to protect the people who lied to me for 2 years? You don't understand. If the DA gets involved, we lose everything, she whispered. And if I'm pregnant with your child, stop using that, I said sharply. If the child is mine, I'll take responsibility. But that has nothing to do with shielding you from consequences. Rhett slammed his fist onto my desk. Damn it, Rowan. We are giving you a chance to walk away clean. If we go down, you go with us. We'll tell them you knew. We'll drag your name through every courtroom until nobody trusts you or your company again. I leaned forward slowly. Say that again, I said. Rhett opened his mouth, but Elara grabbed his arm. Don't, she whispered. He's recording us. I tapped my phone. The red light blinked. I record every meeting involving legal matters, standard practice. Rhett swore under his breath. Elara collapsed into the chair opposite me. Rowan, please, I'm begging you. I made horrible choices. I hurt you. I ruined everything. But you know I'm not a criminal. I studied her quietly. Because the truth was, she wasn't evil, not malicious, just selfish, just reckless, just someone who thought consequences were for other people. But Rhett knew exactly what he was doing. You want a deal? I said finally. Elara looked up, hope flooding her face. Yes, anything. Then here are my terms. The room went still. 1, you submit to a paternity test by tomorrow. 2, you sign a sworn statement detailing your role in the fraud with complete honesty, no minimizing, no omissions. 3, you turn over all communications with Rhett during the period in question. Rhett shot to his feet. Absolutely not. 4, I continued, ignoring him, you agree to the full prenup execution. No appeals, no delays. Elara swallowed. And if I agree to all of that, you'll… What? Make it go away? No, I said softly. I'll simply tell the auditors that you cooperated fully and that you acted under Vossin's direction. Rhett lunged toward me, but Beck stepped in front of him with surprising speed. You don't touch my client, Beck warned. Rhett glared and spat on the floor. You're finished, Carrick, I swear. I hit the screen lock button on my phone. Threats, I said calmly. Thank you. That will help when the detective calls. Elara turned to Rhett, horrified. Stop. For once in your life, stop. But Rhett was already storming toward the exit, security trailing behind him. When the door shut, silence fell like a curtain. Elara looked at me, tears spilling over. I don't want to go to prison, Rowan. I'm not your judge, I said quietly, but I won't save you from the consequences of your own decisions. Is there any part of you that still cares? I paused. For a moment, just a moment, I remembered the early years, the rooftop dinners, the late-night conversations, the mornings she'd curled into me like I was the safest place on earth. Yes, I said honestly, but caring for someone doesn't mean protecting them from truth. She nodded slowly, as if absorbing a blow she knew she deserved. I'll sign the agreement, she whispered. Just don't let Rhett pull me down with him. It's not me you need protection from, I said. It's him. She stood shakily and walked toward the door. Then she turned back. Rowan, if the baby is yours, would you want to know? I met her gaze. Yes, I would. She nodded, wiped her face, and left. The door closed behind her with a soft final click. Beck exhaled. That was brutal, but clean. No, I said, watching the empty doorway. That was justice. Outside in the hallway, I heard security shouting. Then a crash. Then Elara screaming. I bolted out of my office, just in time to see Rhett, wild-eyed and red-faced, swinging a metal signage stand toward the nearest guard. He wasn't aiming at the guard. He was aiming at her. Elara, move! I yelled. She froze. The stand came down. I lunged, and the world detonated into motion, shouts, impact, bodies colliding. The story didn't end. It ignited.